All right. Good morning, Jaya. Thank you so much for talking to my 3210 students. So I'm going to just let you introduce yourself, what your title is, what company that you work for.
All right. Hi, everyone. So my company is Svaha USA. I started this company about 5 years ago, and I'm the founder and CEO of the company. I do pretty much a little bit of everything for the company. So the process that we follow when we are working is we create a design with my designer. Then we have a factory in India. We produce it in India. And then we have a warehouse in Virginia, which is where we ship orders from. So it's an e-commerce, just an all online company.
Oh, all 5 years it was founded that way, to be totally online. Oh, yeah. Okay, fantastic. What kind of garments and products do you make?
So I had to figure out a way to create something that nobody else was doing, because otherwise there are so many online companies. How do you differentiate yourself, right? So I launched this company because my daughter, who was 3 years old, wanted to be an astronaut when she grew up, and she wanted a t-shirt with astronaut on it. And I couldn't find any because there weren't any. They were all in the boys section, and she was not that. And so that's when I said, okay, I have the background. I had been a buyer before, and I had been in exports when I lived in India. And so I said, okay, I have the experience, then why not? So I created this whole line of clothing. So what I focused on is that everything had to be STEM focused, and I actually added an art element to it, so it became STEAM. So everything has to have either a science, technology, engineering, art, or math theme to it. So all my designs had to be on that theme. And so I just created a kids line to start with, basically just t-shirts. And I launched it as a Kickstarter campaign because I didn't want to put in any money in the business. Okay. So I did a Kickstarter campaign and it was successful. And so I was able to get money even before I actually had to produce anything. So I didn't really have to invest any of my money. I haven't invested any of my money in the business. Wow. It was all self-funded because I couldn't. I mean, when I started, I just couldn't afford to put in any of my money.
When you do a Kickstarter, do you have to give away a percentage of like your company?
No. So it's so so you make the designs. So I did have to like make a sample first, which cost me like $500 total, everything. Wow. So I had to make the samples, and then I had to take pictures, which all my friends helped me with all of that. Models were all my kids' friends and everyone. So then I had to launch it on Kickstarter, but I did have to spend a lot of time reaching out to press, like just cold calling, not that I knew anyone. Wow. So I would just reach out to people and say, hey, I'm doing something different. Will you write about me? And all of that stuff. And then I launched this online, and people pay for it. And when you finally, so I was raising $25,000. So people bought the shirts and said, okay, if I get $25,000, I'll actually produce them and I'll ship them to you. Oh. So when you get the $25,000, the Kickstarter, the company takes a small, like 2% of that. They take it, the money. So they don't own any of your company. They just take the 2% of the money that, I don't know, they keep changing the number, but it was about 2%. So what happened is I got all this money, and obviously the shirts didn't cost me that much to make. Mm-hmm. So what I did is when I ordered the shirts, I ordered extra. But I still made sure that I never spent more than the money that I had received from the campaign. And so then I was able to order extra, and then I was able to start my website. And then as I kept selling and getting more money, I then ordered more. So I didn't.
Amazing. I love that.
Anybody can do it. You can't say, oh, I don't have the resources. No, you don't need the resources.
I hear that a lot. I have students asking me that. So I'm just going to give them this video and be like, just listen to Jaya. Well, would you mind explaining to me a little bit of your career path, of how you got there, and if you want to talk about maybe your education in there, just so that students really understand how you kind of connected the dots to being a CEO?
Yeah. So I actually did my undergrad and a master's in India. all in textile. It was called textiles and clothing. I think people have different names for the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So it was, I did a master's in textiles and clothing, and then I decided to come to the US. So I came to University of Georgia in 2001, and I did a master's again there because, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to like see if I would be I would join the fashion industry over here. But after I did my master's in India, I actually worked as in an export house. So I used to actually be a merchandiser where I would work with buyers from Target, from H&M and different companies. So I knew how the whole production part of it happens. And then after that, my second job was as a buyer in India for a retail chain. And I used to buy kids' clothing over there.
Oh, okay.
So I learned how the buying process also works.
Okay.
But after that, when I came to the US, I was a teaching assistant at UGA, and I loved teaching. So I said, I want to be in academia.
Yes, yes.
So I decided to go ahead and get my PhD from Iowa State University. And after I finished that, I was actually teaching. I was an assistant professor at Marymount University in Arlington. That was my first job. And I taught for 5 years. I used to teach fashion buying and international retailing and all of that. And then I even wrote a textbook. It's called Retailing in International Markets. It's Fairchild.
Yes, I know that book. That's on my shelf, actually.
Okay, that's me.
Yes, I'm now connecting the dots. Okay.
So I did that, and then after that I had kids. And I decided that I couldn't be in academia because I just found it very difficult. And my husband is in consulting, so he traveled all the time. So every time any of my kid got sick, I would have to like cancel classes, and I couldn't keep doing that.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I can't do academia anymore. So I said, I'll go back to the industry. And so I took about a year off, and that's when my book got published. And then I joined a company called Think Geek. It doesn't exist anymore. But it was an online e-commerce which had all geeky stuff, like all gaming related and everything.
Oh.
It was 2 years I worked there as a buyer, and it was like going to a university because I'm not a geek. I'm not into gaming or any of that. Every day was like going to school to learn about.
No clothing. It was like.
No, it was all clothing.
But you were still able to use your like merchandising buying skills to totally switch products, basically.
No, actually, I was an apparel buyer.
Oh, okay.
So we did T-shirts, we did Star Wars, Star Trek, fandom.
Yes. Okay.
So we did all of that. I grew the business from being 10% of the company's revenue to 25% of the company's revenue by introducing new products. Wow. Like I introduced sleepwear, like, Star Wars sleepwear. Yeah. I introduced dresses, undergarments, which was a huge hit among the fans.
Oh, underwear. I could totally see underwear being huge in fandom world. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I did all of that. And so after 2 years of doing that, I just said, I need to spend more time with my kids. So I quit that job and I was at home with my kids. And that's when my daughter started this whole thing about, I want to be an astronaut. And I was like, okay, I can't sit at home and do nothing. So I started my company, and that's how I went about doing it. And it all started off with just being 5 kids' T-shirts. And then all the parents who started buying my clothes said, hey, we want dresses with these designs.
Yes.
I'm a scientist, and I would love a chemistry experiment on my dress. And, hold this Miss Frizzle, love for Miss Frizzle, right?
Yes.
So I did a second Kickstarter campaign because launching a women's line was much more expensive, and I didn't want to spend my money again. Yeah. So I did a second Kickstarter campaign, and I raised about $60,000, and I launched the women's line. And now I have mugs to mouse pads to socks and underwear and backpacks and everything with STEM designs on them.
Yes. Oh my God, and graphic tees are so huge. And I would think with even like the Me Too movement and the Women's March, I know I'm even so I have a son and a daughter. I can't believe how much I'm trying to like buy more empowering clothing for my daughter.
Yeah, it's so hard because
like she's 15 months old, but she loves cars. And do you know how hard it is to find just like little car stuff, like pajamas or whatever for a girl? And so I end up buying her from the boys section. So I totally hear you. I hate the whole like gender biasness in children's wear. So
in fact, my Kickstarter shirt was a pink shirt with a race car on it.
Yes. Oh my God. I need to dig deeper into your website. I love it. I love it. Well, okay. So I love this story. I know this is going to be so inspiring to a lot of our students, but I'm curious. So what was something that was like unexpected that happened to you in industry that you think students could learn from, to maybe do, to learn from or do something different than what you did? I didn't know if you had like a one instance that you can think of.
So when I used to teach students, the one thing that I always noticed was they all wanted to become a buyer, right?
Yes.
So they all either wanted to become a buyer or they wanted to be in the design team at a store or, or at a corporate office.
It's very binary. Yes. The way we teach is somewhat so binary, and there's so many other things. Absolutely.
Right. And the thing is that it is actually very difficult to get into a buying position to start with, because it's just very, very difficult. There are only few positions. And, especially with all the consolidations that are happening, like, mergers and acquisitions and everything, it's not that many positions. So I just say that if you enjoy something, you have to start sometimes at a much lower level than you think that you want to be at. Like, I know someone who started at a store level as a sales associate, got promoted to manager, and then went to the corporate office, and now she's a buyer over there.
That was exactly my story. I literally worked at the mall at Gap, and then in New York ended up in their product development design office, again 10 years like after the fact. But absolutely, like definitely the midterm project we work on is about the cross-functional team and how you're not going to always have this very linear career path. So like assistant designer, associate designer, designer, and that you will need to more than likely do a little bit of an unconventional route. So I love that, not to say like, oh, it's so unconventional, but it is unconventional. Like the factories, that quality side and the merchandising side from globally. You then were buying, and then now you have a huge input into design, though you say you have a designer, but I'm sure you're creative. You're the kind of creative inspiration behind it. So you kind of do the whole supply chain, which is amazing.
Yeah. In fact, in the beginning, I was the designer. Like, I would actually literally sketch out what I wanted, and the person would convert it into the Adobe Illustrator file.
Yeah.
And it's only now, because my company has grown so much, that I don't have the time. But I actually work very closely with my designer. So I pretty much give him the input about, this is what I want, this is how I want to do it. And then he has his own creative inputs for that then. Because now I manage the accounting, finance, the production, everything, because that's how it is when you are the owner of a company.
Oh, of course.
But it's so fulfilling.
So I guess, what are some great skills that you say students should really think to acquire, whether it's interpersonal skills, professional skills, like technical skills? What would be your recommendations to students?
So I think that if you know exactly what you want to do, which I don't expect you to, and it's totally fine. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know I was doing what I'm doing right now. So It's totally fine. I mean, you will figure it out after you actually start working. So, but what you should do, I think, is try different things, because that will tell you what you like and what you don't like, right? For example, learn Adobe Illustrator, because you'll use it in so many different ways. I know most students of mine used to hate using Excel, right? Using Excel to do formulas, calculations, and everything. But I use it every single day. So try it. I mean, if you don't try to learn it, then you'll at least figure out, okay, this is not for me, you know. But unless you try it, you just will never know. And it's so easy nowadays to learn things online.
Oh yeah.
And learn things on your own. There are so many YouTube videos you can watch to learn things. So just try to learn as many things as you can, and that way you'll figure out what you like and what you don't like. But you will not know until you try it. So you have.
Oh, that's so true. Sometimes the best lesson you can learn is you don't like something. I mean, I got a whole undergrad degree in merchandising because I thought I wanted to be a buyer. I hated it. And then I went and ended up in more of the creative side. So sometimes you'll end up getting a whole degree and be like, oh wait, I like the other side of all this.
I came into this field because I wanted to be an interior designer.
Yeah.
That's what I am. I hated it.
So if you can maybe briefly talk about how COVID maybe has impacted your business, how you think it will impact the fashion industry in the future, or if you think, oh no, we're going to all go back to normal. I'd love your thoughts on that.
If you can survive this, the companies that can survive this will probably go back to normal at some point. But otherwise, I think e-commerce is going to be like the way of life, because people.
How has your e-commerce business done? Is it like the same? I mean, everyone's taken a dip down, but yeah, because yours is all online.
So it hasn't impacted my business as much. The only impact I have had is my factories are all in India.
Oh, of
and
course.
They also have been impacted, right? I mean, the whole world has been impacted. So what has happened is my factory shut down for a month and a half. And because of that, I didn't get products in time. So that was the only impact. But otherwise, I have a designer who works from home. I have a marketing person who works from home. I have a production manager, like product manager, not production, product manager who works from home. So what I do, I have a big warehouse and I only have 2 people because we have automated everything. So I have 2 people who go in and they stay away from each other as much as possible. And then they fulfill the orders that come in. So we are all able to work from home. I'm able to work from home because I have to manage 2 of my kids, my home, like all the cooking, everything. So I'm able to manage it. It's not that, it hasn't been hard. So nobody in my office has been impacted. We are all working. But yes, e-commerce is probably going to be a lot more important than, the mall, going to the mall and shopping kind of thing. That's probably going to change in a big way.
Yeah. But I think a lot of these things were going to happen anyway, in some ways, like not to say brick and mortar was always going to go away, but I think this has just sped up some of the trends that we were already seeing as far as business models. So, okay. So last question, what is your favorite thing about the fashion industry?
I just love it that what I do is never repetitive. I think I would be so bored if I had to do the same thing over and over again. The trends are changing, the fashion is changing all the time. Like even when I do my designs, right? I do something new every day. There's a new challenge every day.
Yeah.
There's something new happening every day, and that's what I love about this job. It's evolving all the time, and and people always want clothes. So it's an industry that'll never be like.
I mean, seriously, like students get so nervous, like, oh, I see all these things closing down, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, but we're still wearing clothes. It'll be cool.
Because I was just telling myself, the only thing, I can't go out, I can't eat outside, I can't meet my friends. What makes me feel happy is wearing new clothes.
Yes. And online, like I've been doing such crazy online shopping. I'm like, I need a whole lounge, a lounge wear, work from home wear now. I need a whole new wardrobe for that. But Jaya, thank you so much for talking to myself and my students. Your story is really inspiring. I think a lot of students will get a lot out of it. So I so appreciate this. And, you have a great one.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And if anybody wants to reach out to me to ask more questions, I welcome all of you. UGA is very close to my heart.
Oh, well, I'll share your email if they ask. Thank you so much.
Thank you.